Numbers is written by Moses, and it is his account of the 38-year period Israel wandered in the desert following the covenant at Mount Sinai. In this lesson, the people of Israel are just outside of Canaan. The Lord instructs Moses to send spies into the land of Canaan to determine the desirability and their defenses. Now, the children of Israel frequently grumbled and complained about Moses' leadership, so faith in God and trust in the leadership were vital for this massive a group to reach the promised land and their goal. So Moses needed to send men that the people would trust their assessment. To accomplish this, the Lord instructed Moses to send one leader from each of the ancestral tribes of Israel. The 12 men were to go to Canaan through Negev. Moses had a lot of questions. He wanted to know if the people lived in encampments or were they in fortified cities, whether the land is rich or poor, and how many people there were. What were the people like? And he wanted some of the fruits of the land. The spies traveled the entire land for 40 days, and at the end of the reconnaissance mission, the men reported to Moses, Aaron, and the people of Israel at Kadesh. They showed them the fruits of the land, and they told of their story. They were unanimous in their assessment that the land was good land. They described it as a land of milk and honey. Each of their assessments about the strength of the Canaanites was similar. They said that they were strong people in cities that were fortified, saying that their land was possessed by people who had descended from giants, with their best warriors strategically placed on the hills and by the sea to defend. It seemed as though, however, Caleb was uncomfortable with the emphasis on the strength of the Canaanites. He interrupted the 10 mid-report, urging them that we can go and win and occupy this land and conquer them. Sometimes we look at challenges and conclude with logical eyes that the effort is too great. But faith in an omnipotent God means believing in victory even when evidence is unseen and logic is unclear. So Caleb and Joshua looked at the task ahead of them from the perspective of their omnipotent God, of their omnipresent God, of their omniscient God. Their God was the one who had triumphed over Egypt, even when the Pharaoh had an army and they had no army. Their God was the God who did the impossible, parting the Red Sea and then bringing it down to crash upon the Egyptian army. The assessment of Joshua and Caleb was informed by their faith and not by their fears. The 10 spies looked at the task ahead of them and their abilities. The giants of that land were too much for them to tackle. In essence, their faith in their God was too small. So Israel wept and grumbled because of the strength of their opposition, rather than rejoicing in the goodness of the land and the greatness of their God. If you think about it, we do the same thing today. We sometimes rationalize to justify our lack of faith, rather than to take a risk and walk out into the unknown. We explain our inactions with logic rather than inspire our actions with faith. Even with reports of a land of milk and honey, they rationalized, describing Egypt as a better place to live than Canaan. In essence, Israel looked back and with fear longed for their lives of oppression again, rather than with faith seeking to make their lives better than they had ever been. Even for us today, our fear is a result of our lack of faith. Their faith became so weak and their fear became so great that Israel conspired to replace Moses and Aaron with leaders that would take them back to Egypt. Moses and Aaron fell on their face in front of the entire community, and Joshua and Caleb rent their clothes, Joshua making an impassioned speech about the greatness of the land, the gift that God has given them, and how the great God of Israel had the power to defeat even this formidable set of enemies. But the fear of the people devoured their faith, and Moses, Aaron, Joshua, and Caleb were almost the victims of what in the Vietnam era we would call fragging, the deliberate killing of people on your own side. Our fear shows our lack of faith then and now. With faith, we have nothing to fear. Who is more powerful than our God? That's the lesson for this week. Have a great week. Bye.